I need to clear the air first of one thing, and that is this. I totally changed my mind last minute about the bag that I was carrying on, the backpack. So excited to test this out. Didn't think my small bag would have made it on this venture. So I had it all packed up the night before and was ready to go, but I started having doubts. Just, I know what I'm used to and I know what I like. And you know what? I just going into a trip like that, it was kind of messing with my head. And also I didn't want to have to worry about the possibility of being asked about the size walking on to an airplane. Because technically, if you do look at what is allowed on a plane, that bag exceeded what is allowed. Usually it's 45, 46 linear inches, and that was 50. But in this situation, I just didn't want to worry about it. Make fun of me if you want. But when I'm flying, I like to do it with the least amount of stress possible. So I ended up taking this backpack. It's the Encase backpack. I've had it for many years. And it got the job done, and I'm glad I took it. I would have been stressed coming and going to Alaska if I had taken the other bag. With all that said, Ryan, thanks for letting me borrow it. Sorry I didn't use it. Now the important part of this video, the lens choices. In the previous video linked above, I said that I was gonna try to shoot more on the 24mm and probably the 50mm. But I said that with hesitancy, knowing that I would have to give the people that we were filming space, not to be in their face too much. This was a touchy situation that people are talking about hard things. They lost loved ones and they're working through that with others. With the 24mm lens, I would have been way too close to them. So while there, we basically only ended up shooting on the 35mm. So we ended up choosing this lens because of how versatile it is. It's funny talking about this now because I know going into the trip, in the other video, I said, I'm only gonna shoot hopefully with the 50 and then the 24. It's gonna be hard for me not to try to stay on the 50mm. Well, it was completely opposite. I shot with the 35 and the 85 the majority of the time. And I almost didn't even take the 85, and I'm really glad I did. I'm gonna try not to use the 85mm just in case I'm gonna bring it. If I hadn't had the 85, I would have had to slap on a 70-200 or something bigger like that, and it would not have worked. I'm actually really glad we used this 35mm primarily for the shoot. I've described it in the past as a situational portrait lens. It is a portrait lens, 35, 50mm, 85. They can all in some way be described as a portrait lens. But I described this one as a situational one because you do get setting with it. It's wide enough to where you do get some context of a subject in its setting. Whereas a 24mm is less of a portrait lens, but it's much more of a situational lens. So while in Alaska with this lens, we were able to be close and far away from our subject, but keep a healthy distance either way. We weren't in their faces with the lens when we didn't need to be, and when we kept a distance from them, we were able to get stunning landscapes. We were able to see the beauty of Alaska with this lens. This lens proved very versatile in this situation. We could capture huge mountain ranges and then step in and get closer to people. And at times when it was appropriate, we could interview them. We could ask them questions. We could just get facial expressions, see their moods, see them interacting with each other. It created something very personal. It created something very, very moving, very touching. I really think the power of the 35mm is that it's kind of like a real life view of kind of what a lot of us see. I would say the raw emotion and just, I don't know, the life really was translated through this lens and can be seen in the footage. If you don't know me yet, I am somewhat of an emotional person. Not in a crazy way, but in a way that I feel like I'm pretty empathetic with people, and I can cry really easily. I can cry easily because when someone else is going through something, it's easy for me to, I guess, maybe put myself in their shoes and just imagine what they're going through. And on this trip, it was just, there was a lot of emotions. And I talked about beforehand what I was expecting going into this trip. It was going to be emotional. There was going to be people talking about really hard things, losing loved ones. We were spending time around the loved ones that were left behind and that were working through missing them. I think this shoot was just a really big shock to my system mentally, and who I am and how I think and how I work, and especially who I am as a father and a husband. Just hearing some of those stories of these individuals talking about missing their loved ones, and how proud of them they are, but how much they love them and miss them. And it was the most emotional shoot I've ever been on, and trip for work that I've ever been on. I still think about some of the things that people said, or some of the things that we did together, or think about some of the stories, or review some of the clips from the trip, and I'm instantly emotional. Not to get too personal here, but I think I've just been really wrapped up in just perception and what people think about me and my business, and wanted to get hired for more stuff. And now that I'm back, I'm so much more thankful, and I don't know, I'm savoring the time as a dad and a husband. This trip's helped me be a lot more thankful for small moments with my kids and my wife. Anyways, sorry to be so personal. And that leads me to the last little thing that I want to say, and I'm really mainly saying it to myself, and that is to be vulnerable in my business. And what I mean by that is, don't only be chasing the dollar and perception and what people think about you. It's worth it to do things for less pay or no pay. Not that I was paid less for this job. Some of the most meaningful things I've ever shot and produced or helped create, I was paid much less than my day rate, or I was doing it for free. Not that you should do that all the time, because we do need to make a living. We do need to put food on the table. We need to support our families. But there's margin. We all know that there is. There's margin in our time, and there's margin in our work. And my encouragement to you, and my reminder for myself, is to use that to help and serve others and produce things that are meaningful. That was my biggest takeaway from this trip. Last thing is a thank you. Thank you to anyone who has served in our military or is serving now. And thank you to the families of those who are serving. Love you.